Welcome to the Natural Cancer Support Channel. I'm Dr. David Lemmon, naturopathic cancer expert, and I'm here with my friend Zachariah Frank, Zach the Health King, and he is the co-owner of beatcancer.org, nonprofit organization dedicated to cancer education and support. And so I'm really excited to get to know his story. Zach, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, Dr. David Lemmon. I do have to give one quick caveat. I don't own beatcancer.org. Beatcancer.org is its own nonprofit entity. I just help run it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your origin story. How did you become the Health King, and how did you get involved with beatcancer.org?
Yeah, how did I become the health king? How did I become interested in health at all, right? I've just always been someone, even as a young child, that was following my intuition, right? And just always observing myself and observing reality around me and seeing the discrepancies in other people failing to do the same for themselves and the results that got them in life. And so I always just had this lens of thought that things weren't quite right. And when I grew into adulthood, I started diving down the assorted rabbit holes and putting the pieces to the puzzle together of just how not right society in its default settings was in all the different capacities, especially in regards to health. And all of the things inherently do end up relating to health. What does that mean? Well, obviously, if we're not eating right, we're not going to be as healthy. If we're not drinking the right stuff, we're not going to be as healthy. If we're not allowed to breathe clean air, we're not going to be as healthy. Or if we're not having proper familial structures and healthy societies in that way, obviously at an individual level, we're not going to be as healthy. So all things in existence, because we are beings that have a level of health to us, it's going to impact us in some way. And so I just started making observations, started doing research, started learning things along the way. And because I value myself, I had to start implementing changes. When I'd learn new things, I would test them out and either stick with them or change it up or do something else entirely. And along that way, my life fulfillment and health in all realms has just been steadily increasing and going up and up and up. And so, how could I not want to help others do the same? And it's just something that I've very much dedicated my life to. And so, that's kind of how I got to the here and now in making health and wellness and speaking the truth on the matters, or at least what I feel to be the truth in the present moment, a passion of work.
Nice. So how did you get involved with the beatcancer.org association?
It's a funny story, right? I happened to meet the CEO Carl Wagner at a networking organization event, and I had just been going to these events for a while, meeting some cool guys, having some fun times, and learning some tips and tricks along the way. And I just kept putting myself out there, extending my finances to get to these places, extending my time, and jam packing these meetings in as much as I could. And one day at this casual meetup in the Philadelphia area, we happened to be there. It was a small group setting, and it's funny. He introduced himself. I was like, "Oh, this guy's cool. He's a proper gentleman." And he introduced himself and said, "Hey, I'm part of a nonprofit organization that helps people heal cancer holistically." And so right away, I was excited. Oh, someone that is also interested in holistic health. And I said, do you tell people about these kind of things and these kind of things and these kind of things? And I named off a few. Or do you go this route and talk about these kind of things? And he looked at me and his eyes lit up and he's like, whoa. It's like, how do you know these things? And, just from there, we just really jived. And throughout the whole night, we just grew closer and just really liked the energy of each other. So I contacted him afterwards and we just to leave a follow-up chain of communication. And turned out he was looking for someone to help him out in the organization. I was looking for a new business venture to get into. And it was just a perhaps match made in heaven.
Nice. So how does beatcancer.org help cancer patients?
A variety of ways, a variety of ways. We approach at all angles that we could possibly think of. And so what does that mean? Well, naturally, we help cancer patients directly through a variety of programs that we have, most of which are entirely free. For one, we have our in-house counselor, Dr. Randy Shane. She's a 35 plus year in the field naturopathic doctor here in the United States. And we offer counseling with her for cancer patients for absolutely free. She'll do an assessment, develop an initial plan, reassess as time goes on until the person's concern is mitigated. Now, that includes whether they are going conventional avenues of treatment and want holistic support to not suffer the consequences, or if they want to and it's appropriate to go entirely holistic, and she will help someone explore that as well. We also have other educational avenues, though. That's one of our flagships, but it seems like there's no end, right? We have readings that someone can do. Someone could spend hours going through our blogs on different articles, and those have an assortment of links and sources and everything that someone can really need to self-educate on a baseline level. We have weekly calls where anyone can come on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can log on for free, no commitment, get your questions answered, speak directly to myself, my business partner, and several of our holistic cancer coaches. That alludes to the courses that we offer. We offer a paid course to different people as well, whether you are yourself a patient, a caregiver, a medical professional, or educator. Someone can come in at any level and really get what they need at a more comprehensive and structured level than, perhaps some of the free programs offer. And then the tail end of that course, the third course, is a holistic cancer coach certification program. And so by training holistic cancer coaches, we're actually able to have the biggest impact on the most number of clients as we possibly can, because I have 24 hours in my day. So does Carl. So does Dr. Randy. But now that we've trained hundreds of cancer coaches all over the world and continue to do so, it's like a multiplier. It's a force multiplier. And we can just spread our message far and wide to different cultures, different languages. And, it's one of the most exciting things about Beat Cancer.
It's beautiful. So you knew enough about cancer to kind of impress the CEO of beatcancer.org. Where did you learn? Was that just self-study through Google research, or did you gravitate to different books that you learned from, or take certain courses in person or online? What was your path to learning there?
Yeah, I'm not a very stuck up and like official avenue person, right? I like self-exploration and self-study. And I think that's as real as it gets, self-education, right? I don't have any specific pieces of paper for someone to say why that they should believe anything that comes out of my mouth. But I'm someone that has spent a large amount of time over a large amount of time of my days, over a large amount of time of my life, genuinely studying and trying to comprehend the human body and how to optimize it. Not even for professional reasons, just for my own reasons, just to be able to help myself and my family and the people around me, just because it was important to me. Then that should be a positive even. I wanted to help myself and I've helped myself. I would love to help others too. I don't claim to have any, authority over anybody. And, I just have some interesting information that I've accrued. I've spent some interesting amount of time pondering upon it and figuring out the nuances to different things and how to apply it. And I practice what I preach and I live by what I preach. And I'll always qualify when there's something that I'm unsure of or something that I don't know or something that I could certainly learn more about. But it's been a variety of things to answer your question, whether it is, it always gets laughed at, but the Google research, right? The online research, or perhaps the DuckDuckGo research, because Google's a little limited. But yeah, just through Google and through the tools of the internet, you can find some very impactful and very real things, whether that is the majestic and magical peer-reviewed studies to revere, or if that is certain books to read just right online, whether that is just different historical documents or government patents, there's a lot of things online. And just because there's a lot of garbage, it doesn't mean there's not a lot of real and good information on there as well. So just a variety of online resources, man.
That's awesome. So, what stories or experiences have you heard or gained through your association with beatcancer.org? You don't do direct client care, but do you get input and feedback from your patients that the doctor is working with?
Yeah, absolutely. There's always the kind of funny thing of client and coach confidentiality. Not every coach comes and shares every success story, certainly, and I wouldn't have the time in the day to listen to them all. But yeah, there's a handful of really cool stories, especially the ones that our founder Susan accrued over her decades in the field that we do share publicly and are even part of our course that she shares in her case studies. And so one of them that I like to tell is kind of an all-encompassing one about why we approach things in the full experience, mind, body, soul way that we do. And so Susan knew this woman, not even in a professional capacity, if I recall correctly. She was just an acquaintance. And this woman was healthy. She took care of her diet. She took care of her exercise. She was happy. She loved her job. She was successful. She was a high level executive and she was really good at it and doing all those things. And she got cancer. She ended up going the conventional avenue. She's like, just whatever. And got it cut out, irradiated out, whatever. It came back. And then I think she might have went through a couple cycles of that. And she's, or maybe it was even the one time that woke her up. And so then she went to Susan and said, Susan, what's going on? I'm doing everything right. Let's, work to, can you help me? And Susan, being the benevolent force that she was and trying to help everyone that she ever possibly could, she just said, of course. And so they were talking and just talking over some time, and they were getting to know each other. And Susan came to agree. You're doing everything right. What's going on here? There's got to be something else behind the scenes. She was eating right. She was avoiding physical toxins. She was enjoying her life and feeling fulfilled and happy in all these different ways.
Hmm.
But there was a key critical piece that she was missing in, I guess, perhaps what was intended for her life. And so she, even though she loved her job and loved that high functioning executive role, it was killing her.
Hmm.
Whether it was the stress, whether it was the community there or lack thereof, whether it was, the pressure, they just came to realize that she had to leave. So she left her job, didn't change any of other health behaviors or habits, got another job doing, something at the local YMCA. Not that that's bad. It was just like it was a step down financially, but it was also a step down in overall pressure, etc. And she actually never got a recurrence of cancer again. And so it's like, it seems so rudimentary sometimes when we say that, but it can be that simple sometimes, right? There's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes of our body. There's a lot of systems at play. There's emotional poison, there's physical poison, there's all these different things that could be blocked up and not allowing negativity, whether that's the negative energy within us or the unhealthy cells within us to purge out. And unless all these things are addressed on all fronts, we could be doing everything right and sometimes have that one key factor that we're getting so wrong that we end up getting ourselves quite unwell.
Yeah, that's what I love about naturopathic medicine is that focus on the detective work and asking the questions until you kind of get to that root cause. It seems like that would be a hard one to figure out because there's not any lab tests you can do for job satisfaction or anything like that. So it's just a lot of intuition and asking questions and figuring out those sources of stress. But yeah, that's a really cool story.
Yeah, absolutely. Intuition is the one of the most missing things in modern society and to the great detriment of society in every regard. People have been led to completely allow their intuition to be stamped out, to be told up is down, left is right, blue is green, and it's a shame. It's a shame when you have people that are completely ignoring or even distrustful of their natural intuition and instead replace all of their programming and thinking with outsourced so-called science in any regard or outsourced so-called prescribed authority. It's a dangerous thing. If those prescribed informational avenues are thoughts are benevolent, then great, maybe society will get along. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to quite be working out.
Yeah, there's so many stories of people kind of having an intuition to do something or not do something, and then they ignore it, and then they end up having these really tragic consequences, and vice versa, where people have this intuition to follow a path and say, "Oh, I realized that conventional medicine wasn't for me for cancer," and then they have a beautiful success story. So there's definitely both stories, right? Positive and negative examples of either ignoring intuition to your detriment or following intuition to your benefit, but it's always a positive force when you learn to listen to it.
Absolutely. And that the important caveat with that is like any process or behavior or habit, or perhaps muscle, we'll say metaphorically, you have to work it out to get better at it. What does that mean? Well, if you've lived your life not utilizing your intuition from the time that you're a child, because of course, as a child, that's your default way of operation. And then a lot of people have that stamped out of them through things like the public education system, what have you. If you just come to be an adult and you say, I want to follow my intuition now. I want to do that. That sounds nice, right? But it's a habit and it's a process. And if it hasn't been your default, it takes some figuring out to even figure out how to do that and do that in a healthy way. And it's always a combination of things, right? Nothing exists in isolation. We could say, oh, follow intuition, follow intuition, follow intuition, but we have to also run things by logic, run things by, you know what I'm saying? Run things by reality. Not that intuition is mutually exclusive from reality or at all a dichotomy from it, but we have to consider everything that's going on. And in order to optimize our scenario, we have these internal procedures of thinking and feeling and emoting and into for a reason as a whole. We can't just loosely dive into one and ignore the rest as well. So I always give that caveat as well because people hear things and say, I just got an intuition feeling to jump off this bridge or like some crazy thing. And it makes all of it look silly. So there's of course the nuance.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging to learn to discern what's your own crazy thoughts versus what's a positive intuition. Unfortunately, they don't have training classes in high school to learn how to listen to the voice of intuition.
Yeah, yeah.
So you feel like that was a natural talent for you since you were a kid to kind of listen to that inner compass?
Is it a natural talent to listen to the inner compass? I don't know. Like I said, it's a default thing for everybody. Perhaps it's stronger in some people than others, and perhaps there's different levels of stubbornness and resilience to the ways of the world that stamp it out. If I would say if I had to name one natural talent that I really can observe from my childhood, it's even that observation. I was just always someone that felt like I can take a zoomed out approach and just kind of observe what was going on around me. Whether it's like, okay, these kids in this class are running around doing this, they're like stupid, and so that's why they're doing that. I don't really want to do that. It's like, or okay, that teacher is doing that. Why is she doing that? Okay, it's like it's. I don't know. If I had to name one that was always prevalent within me, it's probably that observation, that social observation, or that kind of zoomed out observation of why people are getting the results that they are and why they're doing what they're doing. The intuition as a actual thing that I acted upon, it came and went. It came and went throughout my years.
Yeah, it's just kind of those constant course corrections. We're all human. We're always constantly making mistakes. We're always doing stupid things. But along the way, just kind of listening to that voice of this doesn't seem quite right, that observation, and then just course correcting to what feels more in alignment with truth, just over and over, just like an airplane when they're constantly off course, but they, eventually keep course correcting until they get to the destination. That's beautiful. Yeah, it's a powerful part of the spiritual pathway that I talk about in my course to follow intuition through that spiritual pathway, learning to listen to your voice and not just blindly following doctor's orders, for example, or your family's pressure to do a certain therapy or whatever it may be, but to listen to that inner voice. In your course of training the coaches, do you have any specific training delineating how to listen to intuition or just kind of just do it?
Yeah, I mean it's funny, right? It's like what is in the course actually lesson itself, and then what is it that we teach as part of the community and the weekly meetings and these mental kind of programs and words that I and Carl kind of share that then really set in, right? That's part of the coaching program as well, the follow-up weekly calls for coaches only, in addition to the public calls. So are specifically the verbiages that I just said in the lessons themselves, perhaps in Susan's own way of saying them. But it's part of the program is having me in part of these weekly calls as well to just continue to hear these mental constructs. But Susan was absolutely huge. Susan, our founder, who the course is a compilation of her presentation that she perfected over her decades in the field. She was certainly a proponent of all of these things that we're saying, and so she presented them in her words as well. And so yeah, we absolutely do touch on not just the what, but the how, and the how within reality. So like we'll talk about dietary changes that might be good to suggest, but we also understand that a client or a patient isn't a robot either. You can't just doop 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 press these buttons. All right, diet's been changed, it's been recoded, right? So a lot of the lessons in the modules are the follow up on the what, and it's like, okay, how do we implement this? How do we guide a patient through dietary changes? How do we either discern whether to kind of keep pushing on a point of stubbornness if they don't want to change on a certain thing, or how do we learn to work around it? Like, what's the optimal thing to not create friction or destroy the relationship, but get the optimal results? Yeah, we certainly talk about the implementation within reality, not just the theoretics.
Yeah, we're so complicated as human beings that there's so many different avenues. Like you're saying, each person has a different individual path, an individual level of stubbornness or ease of change or challenge to change diet or exercise or lifestyle or getting chemicals out of the home. Any of those things can be just a huge roadblock for somebody. And then you just have to kind of either break it into baby steps or work around it with by magnifying the other pathways around it. So that, yeah, there's so many different strategies. You have to work with the psychology and the motivation and the human spirit and human mind all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing exists in a vacuum. And like I said, and then like you said, it's people aren't robots, right? It would be awesome if our coaches could just, type a bunch of words or hit a bunch of buttons and then bam, their clients' lives are better. But people have a lot of things going on that make it a lot more of a human and nuanced kind of a procedure that is also, though, what the beauty of programs like yours and mine are, in that we attend to that. We're not just like a large structure entity that says, these are our corporate procedures. Here, client number 124XY, you get put there. It's there's not necessarily a ready-made prescription or prescription of events for any particular client. And this human level approach to health that we advocate for in the holistic realm entirely, that's where the magic is. We can account for that. We're not large corporate entities that have to optimize shareholder efficiency, profits. It's the humanity is what we're bringing to the table. It's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I haven't spoken with too many oncologists face to face, but I know a lot of them have to be going into medicine for pure noble reasons. But then that it seems like that humanity gets stomped out of you in conventional medical system and the conventional medical schools and everything, where it's hard to you're forced into this system to be a cog in the wheel and just treat other patients like cogs in the wheel and that assembly line factory. Here's your chemotherapy A, chemotherapy B, chemotherapy C, and that's all that there is to offer, and just keep cranking people through the assembly line, and you don't have time to even treat people like humans, and it's really a frustrating system to watch people go through that and be treated in that way.
Yeah, but it is what it is, man. Look, if you go to a circus, you're gonna see clowns. You can't attend a circus and then be upset that there's clowns there. If you don't want to see the clowns, don't go to the circus. You know what I'm saying? And so what does this mean on the provider side, on the medical professional side? If you understand that this that the systems are like this, and you enter yourself into the machine that has a bunch of cogs in the machine, well, you're either going to inevitably be shaped and molded into a cog in the machine, or you're going to face a lot of dissonance and backlash, and you're just going to be fighting the whole way. And so I'm not like a change the systems guy. Let them do what they're doing. I don't care if there's a circus and there's clowns in that circus, and people are choosing to go attend the circus and see clowns. If I think there's a better show, why don't I just put on the show? And if people want to see my show in the free market, well, then that's what I'll defend, the free market for people to be allowed to attend my show instead. Now, the free market is, of course, attacked by the clown show entirely, because they know perhaps if there was a better shows allowed to proliferate, then more and more people will and are leaving the clown show. But, it is what it is. They can do what they're doing, and I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And I advocate for us doing what we're going to do. And it's on the patient side, like you said earlier, a lot of people damn well know better. They know better. They don't have trust for the medical establishments. Very rightfully so, in a large degree. Look at what was acted upon us in the last couple of years, and we could just leave it at that. Like, how do you still trust these people? And that's not an isolated incident, and that's not a first. It's time and time again has shown that certain people just aren't your friends, and your results will be as a result of whatever you do attend. And I urge people to follow their intuition with what they know is right on their healing journey. And it might be hard. It's harder to figure it out for yourself, or figure out what resource in the perhaps quote unofficial avenues to work with or to trust. But the flip side of that is the easy road, seemingly easy, where you just go to your nearest hospital, go to your nearest official channel. And it's easy in the short term where it's like, I don't have to do the work to figure out what to do. They'll just tell me and put me through the ringer. But the statistics for recovery, recurrence, overall quality of life in certain channels are just not very good. So please consider not going to the clown show if you don't want to see clowns.
What other treatments have you kind of learned about over the years with your work with beatcancer.org that may be surprising to you that aren't all that common knowledge, household words, things like that? What other therapies have maybe been a surprise for you over the years?
When I joined beatcancer.org, I one had learned so many different things, but two, my mind has become so open that nothing really surprises me anymore. I guess, has there been any crazy ones? I don't know. To me, everything is just inherent and natural at this point. But the main things that I advocate for are honestly not the fun answers. The boring answers are the best. It's the basics that everyone knows but underestimates that will get someone the majority of where they need to be. If we just simply focus on seizing the input of incompatible things to our biological machine bodies and work on the disposal of what has accumulated that isn't supposed to be there in the bodies, we'll get to a great part. We'll get to a great spot. It's the basics are the most powerful, the fundamentals, the foundations. There's a reason that's where you start. But it's beyond the physical side as well, the emotional side. And that's what people perhaps sleep on even more. That's what people underestimate even more. People's own minds are harming them, and they have no idea. And this is especially true for those people that perhaps are, quote, doing everything right on the physical side. You could be exercising, you could be stretching, you could be eating well, whatever that means for you. And hopefully you have a proper reality understanding of what it means to eat well. You could be drinking clean water, you could be cleaning your house with clean stuff. But if you're living in a toxic environment emotionally in your own home that's so sparkly clean and natural, you're going to be unhealthy. Your cells are going to be in a state of disruption, of chaos, of unwellness, and they can't last like that. Your nervous system is going to be unregulated. Now your hormones are thrown out of whack, and all of these systems of your body can't exist in a state of disharmony for so long without it having ramifications on the cells to the point where it builds up and we recognize it as cancer. It's an inevitability, and we have to address how we are living. This goes to our relationships with not just others and romantic partners and our family, but our relationships with ourselves. How many people have sat with themselves? You and I have this beautiful experience of podcasting where it's a bit different, but I'm seeing myself right now. I'm seeing you, but I'm also seeing myself.
Hmm.
And when I'm not podcasting and I'm in my office, etc., and I'm doing different things and I'm working out, you see the weights behind me, there's a giant mirror over there, and I'm seeing myself and I'm reflecting and I'm loving. How many people do that? That alone is a difficult thing to do for so many people because people out there know that they are not living well. They know that they're not facing things within themselves. And you can't hide from the mirror. It's one of the most powerful exercises you can do to just truly face yourself, look deep into your own eyes, and figure out who you are,
Hmm.
and figure out what you're running from and hiding from. And most people have something. Most people have something. And unless you're addressing these kinds of things at these core to you levels, you're perhaps setting yourselves up for unwellness in different regards, cancer or otherwise. So, those are the kind of things that really surprise people, those deep emotional correlates to cancer. And again, you could get scientific again and talk about the scientifically significant observations of certain emotional habits or personality traits or emotional traumas correlating with specific instances of cancer. Energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. And if we don't have healthy pathways of purging emotional energy, well, our body protects us by, okay, it recognizes this, our person can't deal with this, so it tucks it away. And that energy festers and festers and festers and can actually wreak large havoc on wherever it has been tucked away to. And there's, like I said, certain types of energy that tuck away in certain different areas of the body. And this is something that's been observed for civilizations of past, as far as we know, whether we're calling it chakras, whether we're calling it meridians, whether we're calling it, energy centers. There's all these different languages that we can use to say the same thing. The point is, energetic disharmony can absolutely disrupt a physical organ or a physical area of the body. And that can have physical ramifications as little as temporary discomfort in the area, or an ache or a pain. It can cause inflammation and swelling. It can get extreme to the point where it's cancerous. And so if we're not addressing the emotional side of our diet and the emotional side of ourselves, we are doing quite a disservice to the physical side of ourselves always as well. These are the kind of things that surprise people very often, how strong these things can be.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that how that applies to the constant metaphors that are used for cancer care of the violence and the battle and the war on cancer, the battle against cancer. Cancer is seen as this alien invader that you catch like a cold that's invading your body. But this is really your cells. And like you're talking about, if you go to war with yourself, there's no winners. If you go to war with your own cells, that's just pure collateral damage of yourself. And so that self-love piece is so powerful, literally and metaphorically, to stop being at war with yourself. I like to think of cancer cells like, rebellious teenagers, right? They stay up all night, rebellious. They like to eat sugar. They're fast growing. So a lot of similarities with rebellious teenagers. But if you have a group of rebellious teenagers having a party in your house, you don't get out your machine gun and threaten to kill them all. You don't go to war against your teenage kids. You love them back into the fold. And I think that's one of the major missing pieces of the cancer system and the cancer treatment today, is that self-love, like you talked about, being able to look into the mirror, look yourself in the eye and say, I love you. That's really, really powerful, to put down those weapons and kind of reconnect with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, a lot of conventional approaches, they attack a tumor and hope that the patient doesn't take too much collateral damage along the way, that they end up dying themselves, or that the surrounding areas of their body don't take too much collateral damage along the way, to the extent that cancer then proliferates, or other ailments then proliferate in the other parts of the body along the way as well. It's like the machine gun metaphor is a great one, because it's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? And hoping that you hit the fish, and you're left with an empty barrel with no water in it. It's unfortunate how much collateral damage gets done. And that's actually our founding story, right? Our founder, her husband ended up with cancer, and he went to conventional avenues. They didn't know anything different. Those two didn't know anything different. Not that the world didn't know anything different. I want to make that clear. They went conventional avenues, he went conventional avenues, and he ended up dying very promptly, actually with no tumor cell in his body anymore.
Mm.
His body was just wrecked. His body was no longer, it died. Yeah, it was a success story for the chemo and radiation, in the sense that it killed the cancer. Great. It killed the host. And so the holistic approach, at least at Beat Cancer, and ideally in any holistic practitioner, is having a host-centered approach. We're not here to attack a tumor. We're here to help heal a whole human being, a whole person. That person has feelings, emotions, other organs, has, all these things going on that if you ignore them, they're going to be done a disservice. We have to consider all of these things. And I want to highlight what you just mentioned as well before, in the language that we use surrounding cancer, because this extrapolates out into the language that we use in everything in our everyday lives. People's own language is wrong and doing themselves a disservice, and they have no idea. It's so normal. It's so normal to do these unhealthy mental word tricks and spells casting upon ourselves that are doing ourselves such a disservice. What are we talking about when we're saying F cancer, or war with cancer, F this? I hate the expletive one, because it's just so unnecessarily vulgar, and it just seems so lowbrow to me, and it's just inappropriate. You get kids around and you're putting a sticker on your car that says F cancer. Come on, like chill out, bro. I'm not a prude, but that's just unnecessary, and it's unfortunately juvenile as well, and it's not productive. When we have these aggression viewpoints, especially towards cancer, like we were saying, it's our own cells. So you're going to war with yourself, you're going to lose. It's like there's this old proverb. I don't know if it's real or if it's just it's made up, but it says it's like only when a mosquito lands upon your private parts will you realize that violence is not always the answer. You know, it's like you can't just boom and you're gonna regret that after. I don't know what the thing is. It's probably made up, but it's when we have this nuclear war, fight, F this approach to cancer or any ailment within our body it's you're not having the approach of loving yourself back to health. That's how you figure it out, right? You don't if your room is dirty, you don't burn the house down. You clean the room and then you keep it clean. It's it's that simple, but people need to have these philosophic changes in order to really wrap their heads around healing at a proper level and set the stage for any of the conversations that we have in the holistic realm. And then I've actually heard flack about our name alone, beatcancer.org, because that could be perhaps akin to two of these different things. The name was, of course, formed long ago before my time in the organization, but I don't mind it. I don't mind it, right? Because there's war and F and fight and this and that. Let's just beat it. It's kind of like a downplay to me. We're just gonna beat it. We're gonna beat it. It's done. Beat
Yeah, it
it.
can
It's
be like a
done.
race. You can beat someone in a race. It's not as
Yeah.
violent.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just gonna beat it. Done it. Overcome it. Done. That's how I see it.
So Zach, what other parting words do you have for the guest today?
If you're not in the driver's seat of your own experience in life, be that in health or any other regard, take careful consideration for what is, because something is. And if nothing is, well, then it might be a short trip into the wall. And if something is that isn't in your favor, well, then you might not like your destination either, right? So we have as much empowerment and ability to affect our reality as we take. We don't have to be a victim. We don't have to be just a feather in the wind of our circumstances. The resources are out there now more than ever with this beautiful tool of the internet to figure things out, to connect with good people, to really follow what your intuition is telling you. What if you were a peasant on a goat farm years ago and your intuition was screaming at you to do something, but you're in your little village farm and there's genuinely no way for you to get there? Like we have so many tools at our disposal in the modern world today that we take for granted. And it's such a shame. Look at these beautiful things that come out of the internet. You and I are connecting. We're bringing this conversation to people. We're able to help people in holistic healing all around the world via the internet. And people can find us via the internet. The information that you need to change your life is out there. It's up to you to find it. I didn't say it's going to be easy. Perhaps it'll be quite difficult. There's a lot of garbage on the internet as well. But what else is worth investing your time and energy and effort and perhaps a bit of money into than improving your own health and experience in life? You got to get it done. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
Zachariah Frank, thank you so much for being on the show. Such a productive conversation, so many nuggets and words of wisdom. I appreciate your time today. How can viewers learn more about you?
Absolutely. So, in regards to cancer, you can go to www.org. From there, you can explore our various programs that we have. We are under deep renovations right now. We have a lot of changes coming to our programs, changes coming to our website, all good and exciting stuff. It's only getting better. It's only getting easier to navigate from here. So you may see things kind of jump around a little bit in terms of the website itself. But right at the top, you'll see buttons for our weekly calls. That's a great way to get introduced to our community. You can jump on there. You could see our courses. You could see our blogs, whatever program that you're interested in, you could find your way to it on the homepage there. And I'm trying to make it as easy as possible as time goes on. If you need any help navigating our website or any of our programs or have any questions on the beat cancer side of things, my email is zfrank@beatcancer.org. If you're interested in holistic health and wellness overall, not just in regards to cancer, but in regards to the human experience in mind, body, soul, spirit, relationships, and anything in between, you can check out my podcast. It's called The Health King's Court: Ancient Wisdom, Modern Health. And I cover a variety of things with guest experts, anything from biological dentistry to cancer, to sexual health and wellness, and all these different things. So you can contact me at zachthehealthking@gmail.com if you're interested in inquiring about being a guest on the show. I'm also available for guest appearances. If you want to find the podcast on your favorite platform, instead of typing in that whole name to whatever, you can just go to zachthehealthking.com and explore the platforms and everything else I have going on from there. ZAK is how I spell my name. If you spell it wrong, you'll still get to the right place. So that's where I am.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, Zach. Wonderful conversation, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you very much, Doctor. It was a great
Take
time.
care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, I'm on a mission to touch the lives of over 10,000 cancer patients this year, and I want you to join me in this cause. So if you or someone you love is dealing with a cancer diagnosis right now, I want you to like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so you can continue to watch this life-changing content. There are a few links down in the description below to join a free private natural cancer support group on Facebook. You can join this group or invite any of your friends, especially cancer survivors. We need their input and emotional support in this group. For you or anyone that you love, click the link for 3cancerinsights.com to watch the short free presentation to understand how to transform your health, the right way to treat cancer, and ways to reduce cancer treatment side effects. I created the Cancer Detox course to support you and your loved ones through the cancer journey. I take you on a guided tour through the 7 pathways of healing, talk about the causes of cancer, the ways to reverse it, and how to integrate natural remedies into your conventional treatment plan if you so choose. And if you like to read, my book, Natural Home and Herbal Healing, is available on Amazon and Audible, and it takes you on a room by room guided tour of all the powerful healing remedies that can be found throughout your own home and property. So check out the links in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video.